it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 9 of my 2024 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be making an all dies card using Lawn Fawn's book collection, Build a Birdhouse Christmas add-on, and the Magic Iris Snow Globe add-on. So first I'm going to concentrate on my books, and I'm going to die cut those out of some colored cardstock. I'm using Lawn Fawn's Barn Red, Guava, Noble Fir, Cilantro, Peacock, and Mermaid. And then for the book pages, I'm going to use Speckled Eggshell, which has that nice little fleck in it. And then I'll also be using some gold metallic cardstock for the little tassel, the bookmark. I wanted to have a mix of traditional red and green Christmas colors and then also a few fun colors mixed in there like the guava and the aqua and the turquoise. So I am just going to take all of these dies and add them to the different colored cardstocks, and I am taping those into place with a little bit of post-it tape. I often will reuse my post-it tape to get more use out of it, and so I just stick the used pieces on top of the little tape dispenser, and then if I need some extra tape I can just tear that off as needed. But I find that's a good way to kind of conserve, and I will use that a few times until it doesn't stick very well anymore. So I'm just figuring out where to die cut those out using my scraps of cardstock to the best that I can. And I had one die left over, so I decided to die cut that out of the mermaid cardstock as well. So I'm going to run these all through my die cutting machine, and then we're going to move on to the Build a Birdhouse Christmas add-on. And for that, I will again be using Barn Red cardstock with Noble Fir and some chocolate bar. And I'm going to use the bow and the little sprig of greenery and then the pine cones. So I will die cut all of those elements out next. And I'll add those to my little dish so nothing gets lost while I am collecting all my bits and pieces. Then I'll move on to the Magic Iris Snow Globe add-on, and I'm going to die cut the snowflakes out of the speckled eggshell. And then I need to die cut part of my sentiment, and I'm going to repeat the colors that I used on the books for this. So Barn Red, Guava, Noble Fir, Cilantro, Peacock, and Mermaid. And I am going to spell out the word booked. So I am just taking each of those letters and taping those into place. I'll need 2 of the O's, so I'll die cut that out of the Noble Fir as well. And then just continue spelling out those letters using my Finley's ABCs. So 1 letter out of each color cardstock, and that worked out perfectly because I had 6 letters and 6 books. So my last thing I'm going to die cut is the Stitch Scalloped rectangle frames, and I'm going to trim that out of some dark brown wood grain cardstock. And then I just need to assemble my books. So I'm actually going to take the pink one out because I'm going to leave that one just as it is. And I actually die cut a second one of that exact same size out of cilantro that I didn't show on screen. But the rest of these need some assembling, so I'm going to glue the large red cover to the book pages, and then the smaller book pages I am going to add the aqua cover. And I'm just using my glue tube to adhere everything. You can add the glue to the back of the actual cover or just along the edges of the die cut. It leaves behind a little ridge so you know where to add your glue. Then for these other books, I'm going to layer them up. So I'm going to put the Noble Fir over top of the Cilantro skinnier book. And then I'm going to put the Peacock over top of the Mermaid for the chubbier book. So I love the way those look layered up. It just gives them a little extra detail that I think is super fun. So now I will set these aside to dry. For the rest of my sentiment, I am going to heat emboss it onto a piece of leftover chocolate bar cardstock, and I am using a sentiment from the Winter Birds add-on. So I'm going to treat that cardstock with my Rabbit Hole Designs powder tool and then ink up the sentiment with some Versamark ink. And I am masking off one of the words in this phrase. So it actually says home for the holidays, but I just want the for the holidays part. So I'm going to replace my mask and ink that up one more time, and then I always press really lightly when I'm using the Versamark ink because I want to be really careful not to make the letters kind of squished out and distorted. And then I'll coat that in some Lawn Fawn white embossing powder and just use my fingernail to clean up any extra that was clinging on. And then I'll heat my heat gun off to the side for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then I'll bring it to both the front and the back of the cardstock to try to minimize some of the warping until that's all melted. For the inside of my card, I'm going to be putting together a phrase combining Little Woodland Library and the Treat Cart add-on coffee. I created a standard A2 card base out of some narwhal cardstock, and I'm stamping on the inside in Storm Cloud ink. So I put I hope your and is literally the best is from the Little Woodland Library, and then I added the word holiday from the Treat Cart add-on coffee. Also, the little fox reading is from the Little Woodland Library, and I am going to add a little gingerbread man to the cover of his book from the Treat Cart add-on coffee, and I just taped off the straight edges. It's kind of my lazy way of masking. And then I wanted the gingerbread man to kind of be peeking from the side of the spine, so I just stamped him at kind of like a little bit of an angle just to make him look a little bit more funny and cute, whimsical. And then I'll just peel off that mask so he's kind of like on the lower corner of that book cover. Then I added some foam tape to the back of my frame, so I'm just going to peel off the release papers, line that up carefully on my card front, making sure that that is on there nice and straight. And once I'm sure that it is, I'll press it down into place. I trimmed down the stamped part of my sentiment with the smallest of the everyday sentiment banners, pop that up on some foam tape, and I'm going to add that to the bottom right corner. And then I'm going to add my letters right above that, and I've popped those up on some foam tape as well. I'm going to work my way backwards from the D to the B just to make sure that everything is nice and straight, because I can use that banner as a visual guide for those first couple of letters. And I am going to place them really close together because they just fit perfectly inside that frame. So it will say booked for the holidays, which I think is super fun and great for any book lover in your life. I personally am a huge reader. I think I might get up to 200 books read this year. I'm already at like 180 something. So the goal is within reach, and I love to read so much. So I was really excited about creating this card for you guys today. So right above the sentiment, I am going to start stacking my books and putting them at a couple of little angles to create a Christmas tree shape. So it's just going to be kind of like a triangular shape there. So I have the two sideways books, and then on top of that, I'm going to add the chubby turquoise book. I'll add a skinny pink book next to that, kind of leaning against it, and then the cilantro one on the other side. And then I'll have the tall noble fir book leaning against it from the right. And every Christmas tree needs a star, so I'm going to represent that with my gold tassel bookmark. And actually, when I was in Paris for my birthday this year, we were walking down the street at all of these different little vendors that were selling all kinds of goods, and we found one that was selling these metal gold colored bookmarks, and they had all different kinds, different styles, and my husband bought me one for my birthday, and it has like a little owl and a book and a feather kind of hanging down, and you tuck it in a book, and then it is like a little decoration just like the one on that turquoise book. So that was a really precious special memento that I brought back from my trip that I will always treasure. I am going to decorate my little Christmas tree of books with some greenery. Then I'll add 2 pine cones and top the whole thing off with a beautiful red bow. Then I laid out my snowflakes scattered all along the background, and I am going to adhere those flat to the card. I tried picking them up with my Studio Katia embellishment wand first, but I just prefer to use my fingers. It's easier for me to just get in there that way. So I'm just adding a little bit of liquid glue behind each of these snowflakes, trying to just dab a little bit on and then kind of spread it around with the nib of the glue tube so that I don't get too much excess glue since those snowflakes are quite delicate. So I'll just continue adding those on all around the books and the sentiment. That one die gives you quite a good variety of different sizes and shapes, and so I just made sure to scatter those around and not have any 2 that were similar right next to each other, just so we have a little bit of variety around the scene. So I'll add one final one in that top right corner, and I'll actually come back to those in just a little bit. But I wanted to take care of the corners first because I wanted to add a little extra embellishment to those. So I'm going to mimic the little greenery on the book stack with the greenery in the corners. I'm going to add just 1 pine cone, and I'm going to do that at the bottom left and the top right. And then I'll add a little bit of greenery to that as well. I wanted the greenery to kind of look like it was tucked in and around that pine cone, so I'm actually going to lift that back up and pull it out so it partially covers one of the little fronds, just to make it more visible, because otherwise it was a little bit hidden behind that greenery. So I'll do the same for the top corner, just kind of tucking that around the base of the pine cone. And then of course I will add a little red bow to each of those little clusters as well. So we have a little trio of that greenery. And I think that just adds a nice little festive flair to the corners and just kind of echoes the book stack. And I thought I was done with the die cuts at this point, but when I moved my tray, I saw that there was another one of these tiny little snowflakes on there. So I decided to add that to one of the books. I put it on the Noble Fur book and kind of overlapping the corner of the red one as well. And then since I already had 2 snowflakes that were overlapping part of my scene, I was toying with the idea of adding a 3rd one. I like to do things in 3s, just like I did with the little pinecone clusters. And so I thought about adding this last snowflake to that turquoise book, and I went back and forth trying to decide if I liked it better with or without. Ultimately, I did decide to add it, so I have that kind of overlapping the cilantro book as well. And then I wanted to add just a touch of Stardust Stickles. I didn't want to do too much, so I'm just going to add a small little dot to the center of each of the snowflakes. It's just a little extra detail that will look pretty when you tip the card into the light. So that is going to finish this one off. I will lift that up so you can see all of the detail and give you another peek at the inside. It's not often that I get to combine my two great passions, so I had a lot of fun with this one, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, it's going to be on the Lawn Fawn blog and YouTube channel today as well, so you can check it out again over there. All of the products that I use will be listed and linked in the description bar below in case you'd like to pick up anything for yourself. And I'll also put up day 9 of the previous 2 years of holiday card series for you to enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye-bye!